Okay. Hey, everybody. We are live for our June 21st council meeting. We're going to begin this evening with a public hearing to take comment concerning a hazardous structure. So I just advise everyone, please make sure to say your name before you speak so the court reporter can get that down. To start, I'll ask the court reporter, are we ready? Okay, so I would just note that this is a public hearing to take comment concerning a hazardous structure located at 6283 Old William Penn Highway, tax map number 4916140103. So with that as the preamble, does somebody from the municipality want to come forward?
Sure. We'll have Nick Ruffner give an update on the property for council.
Yep. If you just come to the mic, please, sir.
Yeah, sure.
Hello, council.
And please say your name for the record, sorry.
Yeah, for those who don't know me, my name is Nick Ruffner. I am the code enforcement officer here in Marysville and also a building code official. My presence among you all today is to bring your attention to a building that the Community Development Department and I have deemed as a dangerous structure. The residents in the pictures, I think Michael has the pictures for us. Residence in the picture is 6283 Old William Penn Highway, Export, PA. This building has long been abandoned and neglected. The unsightly nature and upkeep of the property has become a nuisance and health hazard for neighbors in the community. This isn't a fixer-upper. The structure is dangerous and lacks structural integrity. The foundation is more than 33% deteriorated and has been exposed to the outside elements for years. The property was posted as a hazardous structure on 2/16 of 22. A registered letter was sent to the owner on 3/2/22. Many additional letters were sent to this address and to no avail as they were returned to the office. An additional letter was sent by me on 1/27 of this year to the owner of record that was also returned. A final letter was sent on 3/7/23, which was not returned. A response from the owner was never received and the letter was never returned. The property was posted for a hearing this evening. We asked to move forward with a decision to issue the violation notices and take them to the magistrate and to have it demolished if she doesn't do it within 30 days. The structure is dangerous and lacks structural integrity and is a danger to the health and safety of the public. That's all.
Okay. Now, is there a specific action required by council, Michael?
Well, and Jim may be able to speak to this a bit better than I can. I know that we adopted an ordinance a little over a year ago that requires a public hearing before demolition. I would imagine that the next step is now to begin the process of issuing violation notices, going to the magistrate. Again, if you'd like, I can turn the floor over to Jim. I think he can elaborate.
Council needs to declare it as a blighted structure, and then it can be proceeded through with the notices and then onto the demolition program.
Refresh my memory, do we pick up the tab for that solely, the demolition, or eventually could we bill the owner if they did ever come forward?
The property can be linked for the cost of demolition.
What do we typically do?
Well, in most instances, we don't have demolition occur. A lot of times when we come to this step in the process, the properties are either purchased or the owner tears them down. In this case, I don't believe that's going to occur, and I would recommend that we link the property.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns from council?
No.
Okay. Is there anyone here tonight who would like to give public comment concerning this hazardous structure? Okay. Seeing no public comment, just for the good of the order, I ask that somebody make a motion to declare this a blighted structure that needs to be demolished.
Make a motion to declare this a blighted structure that needs to be demolished.
Second.
Motion and a second by Jamie Lee and Jamie Ling. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion passes. It is unanimous. For the good of the order, is there anything else we need to get in the written record? Okay, can I have a motion to close the hearing?
Like to make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second the motion.
Thank you, Jason and Carl. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hearing is closed. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so with that, we will get into our regularly scheduled meeting this evening, and we will begin with a roll call. Verdale?
Mr. Lee Mack,
Here.
Mr. Spadaro,
Here.
Dr. Lee Corns,
Here.
Mr. Stepanovich,
Here.
Mrs. Ling,
Here.
Mr. Dice,
Here.
Mr. McKenna,
Here.
Mayor Sinat.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Mr. Nestico, do we have any unlisted amendments this evening?
There are no unlisted amendments this evening, but I would make a note to council, being this first time I've encountered this. I've disseminated an invoice for the In Murraysville magazine in the amount of a little bit over $4,000 for a publication from earlier this year. That item was inadvertently omitted from the accounts payable for this month, so we'd like to add that in so that it can go out. That payment can go out with this month's check run, so I'd ask council to include that as part of the accounts payable for this evening.
Okay.
Michael, is that a quarterly payment or an annual payment?
Well, I think the magazine may be semi-annual. Sorry, continue to look over to Mr. Morrison.
No, that's a one-time payment. That is for the mayor's annual report that gets published.
Okay.
It noted it was the spring edition, so we don't pay to be featured in the other editions, or? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns about adding the invoice for Community Magazine to the consent calendar items? Okay, with that, can I have a motion to approve the consent calendar items?
I could make a motion to approve the consent calendar items.
Second.
Let's go Tony and Mac. Any final questions or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Consent calendar items are approved, inclusive of the Community Magazine bill of a little over $4,000. That brings us to comments by the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Dice. Let's start off with a little sad note here tonight. Yesterday, we lost one of the pillars of our community, Randy March, the former fire chief of Murraysville VFD and 55-year member, passed away. Randy was a Vietnam veteran, having served in the Army Field Artillery Unit. I consider Randy a family member of this community. Anything we asked from him, he did, always. So rest in peace, Randy. Thank you. First slide tonight is Pioneer for a Day, being held at the Sampson Clark Toll House and Schoolhouse, sponsored by the Murraysville Historical Society. It's for ages 8 to 12 on July 11th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and there is a $50 fee for that. I would say check with the Historical Society for more information if you would like that. Again, the Farmers Market, the 10th anniversary is Thursdays, 3 to 7, down at the fireman's lot down there in front of the fire station in Murraysville Medic 1. If you have any questions, call here at the Recreation Department. Next is Tuesdays at Townsend. I guess there's one coming up here real soon on the, next Tuesday. The Adorables will be there. It's from 6:30 to 8 p.m. They're free to all, and they usually have a food truck and a beer truck of some sort there. I see it's Cilantro and Ajo is the food truck, and Devout Brewing will be the beer truck. If it's going to be canceled for weather, check on the Facebook event page or on the website at murraysvilleparecreation.com. The next slide is all about bears, and if you haven't seen one yet in Murraysville, you probably will before long, because they wander around and we get calls all the time. The Game Commission will share info about the PA Black Bear free to all ages July 1st at MCP Wetlands Pavilion. I don't see a time on here, so if you want to see this, you're going to have to call the municipal or check the website, MurraysvillePARecreation.com. I can tell you, just stay away from them. They'll go away. Don't mess with them. Don't feed them. And they'll wander off into someone else's yard and back into the woods where they belong. So, one other thing, we're looking for seasonal help for physical labor outdoors in our Public Works Department. You must be at least 18 years old and have a 40-hour, be able to work 40 hours and have a current PA driver's license. This is a full-time skilled laborer we're also looking for at this time. So thank you that's the end of my comments this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. That brings us to comments by the Chief Administrator. Mr. Nestico?
No comments for this evening.
Awesome. That brings us to community input. Thank you. We have a few people signed up. Let's start with Mr. Paul Metzler. And just state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Paul Metzler, 6962 Berkshire Drive, Manordale Farms. And I had conversation with Michael today, a little bit about the trying to control the noise on 22 as usual. First of all, I want to say that the Jake Brake signs that were put up has helped somewhat. But again, as they've been up there, they seem to be being ignored a little bit more. We had asked previously, is there a possibility of putting flashing lights on those signs to get their attention? I don't know who would be the ones to contact PennDOT on that. The other thing is trying to control the speed on Route 22. I know it has a major effect to the road noise that we're dealing with. And we had asked about the electronic speed signs to be put up. Mike says that he thinks that's to be something needs to be addressed by PennDOT. Want to know who would be able to contact PennDOT to find out if they could put those up. We've seen them around in other areas. There's one in Swissville as you come off on the other side of the Squirrel Hill tunnels as you come off. There's a big sign that when it flashes the speed, it says slow down as you're going up onto Beechwood Boulevard or Bronze Hill Road, actually. So I don't know whether it's PennDOT's responsibility or what. Mike had said that we have one or two signs, but not sure whether or not we could put them on Route 22. But the other thing is back to the Jake brakes. When we first started talking about it, they said it's very hard to enforce those signs even when they're up. But in the Delmont had just passed laws against the use of the Jake brakes in certain areas, and that question came up about enforcing those laws. And they said as long as those signs are posted, they have the same effect as a stop sign would or a yield sign. They have to be obeyed. We don't want to overburden the police. They've been doing a good job with trying to keep the speed down in our area. But I was talking with Joe Cooper about the same situation. They were saying that possibly if they started a short campaign of stopping the trucks, giving them warnings, possibly ticketing them, that the word would get out that if they're going to use Jake brakes in the municipality of Murraysville, they're going to pay for it. So just looking for ideas to try and control the noise. One other one, I don't want to tie things up here because we've been through it, but the noise level is so high that my son mixes sound for a large religious group that does national broadcast. He was over for Memorial Day, sitting on there, and he said that we're running 10 dB higher than the maximum that they're allowed to use for that. So we're putting up with that on a regular basis, which brings it to another factor is that it doesn't impact me that much. I don't have young children. You know, my grandchildren are even, becoming adults now. But there are a lot of new families moving in along that stretch. And those kids are going to be exposed to that noise for years. And it's not going to be healthy. So I don't know if the EPA could help convince PennDOT to do something, whether they pave that, put up a sound wall, do something to control that noise because it is unbearable.
No, absolutely, and I know the municipalities helped so far, and I'll make sure that they keep helping, as will the whole council, the mayor, and everyone else. So.
Yes, and again, I want to thank you. The response that we've had from council has been fantastic. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, that brings us to Miss Joyce Perhack.
Good evening. Joyce Perhack, 4102 Castellina Court here in Murraysville. I'm a resident of Castellina Court, and I'm also president of the Castellina Homeowners Association. I'm here this evening to bring to your attention an issue that we have on Castellina bordering Townsend Park. Currently, there is a wooden gate between our street and Townsend that belongs to the municipality of Murraysville, and it's in severe disrepair. We've been told that the gate exists to be used as a vehicle entrance in case of an emergency in Townsend at the ball fields, but I've not been able to verify that. With the gate in its current condition, we don't know how any vehicle would be able to access the park via the gate regardless. Our HOA has been attempting to have the gate either replaced or repaired and have been told there's no money in the budget. I recognize that that's a statement, it's a boilerplate answer, but it's not effective or acceptable response for this situation. To our knowledge, neither the enforcement officer nor the Director of Public Works and Parks performed an investigation or review of the gate before making the statement that there's no money in the budget. Without taking the time to evaluate whether it can be repaired or what the replacement cost would be, we find that statement both dismissive and insulting. We were also told that if we wanted it to be replaced or repaired, we as the homeowners should do it ourselves. I'm not aware of any municipality that would encourage residents to undertake work on municipal-owned property at the residents' expense without some type of evaluation, disclaimer, approval, agreement, something like that. If the Castellina homeowners take it upon themselves to follow that directive to replace the gate on our own, I believe we would then own the rights to that gate and have the right to deny access to emergency vehicles and others if the need arose. We can't imagine that the municipality would be in agreement with that scenario and also find it hard to believe that the municipality truly means that residents should make personal investments in municipal-owned property. I have some pictures to share with you this evening. Can I give them to you?
Put them on the table. Put them on the table, they'll put them up on the camera. Yeah, just set them on the table. Set them on the table, they'll put them up.
Ah. Modern technology. As you can see, besides being an eyesore, the padlock and plate is severely rusted. The gate is hanging off the hinge in one spot. There are rusted nails sticking out all over the gate and more. In addition to being an eyesore, we believe there is negligent liability should someone, including any of the children in our neighborhood or those who use the ball field at the park, be hurt by trying to use this gate. We ask Council to please consider what can be done to repair this municipal-owned property to minimize the risk to the municipality in case of an emergency. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Michael, can we look into this and just?
Yeah.
Yes, the first I'd heard of this is earlier this week. We discussed it. There was a question as to whether the fence or the gate was the municipalities or the property owners, and obviously that was just alluded to. So I think that we were looking into that to try to determine ownership, responsibility. If it winds up that it is the municipalities, certainly it's something that we can work to address. So that was the first step in the process, was to determine when the gate was installed or the fence, and who actually owns the fence itself.
Okay, wonderful. So, ma'am, we'll look into this, determine it, and if it's the municipalities, we'll do something about it, okay? Yes. All right.
To save you a little bit of time, I've already talked to People's Gas, who has the right-of-way there with that gas pole. It's not theirs.
Okay.
You want to hear the rest of the story?
Sure. Oh.
The ownership is in question, and I think there's research being done on that, but that gate was not put in by the municipality. It was put in by the developer as a condition of approval of that planned development. It's my opinion that it's the homeowner's responsibility as a result of that action, but there's further research being done on that, and I think that's why they responded that way now.
Okay.
Out of curiosity, when was that neighborhood developed? When would you guess?
No, late 90s, I think it was. It was at the Caesar plant.
It was done while I was here, so it must have been around 95.
Yeah, that could be.
95, 96.
That could be. We were not told that it belonged to the homeowners, so this is news to
Mr.
me.
DeCesar put that gate in.
Okay, okay.
I'm not sure whether the whole fence or not, but I know specifically there was a debate concerning the gate for emergency access. And as part of the conditional approval, the developer was to put that gate in.
So how is it decided then how it will be repaired or replaced? How do you go through that process?
First, we have to determine exactly whose it is. I mean, 95, no one's going to remember off the top of their head. So let's just figure out legally who it belongs to, because the developer could have put it in and just left it to the HOA, or the developer could have put it in and dedicated it to the municipality, and the municipality accepted it. Let's just determine that. But I can say this, I think everyone on council will agree, if it ends up it's the municipalities, we'll make sure something's done.
And if it belongs to Castellina, we're willing to do something too, but we don't want to step on your toes and
Absolutely.
do something to your property as you wouldn't do to us, so
that's-
thank you.
Perfectly fair, so thanks for bringing it to our attention, ma'am, seriously.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. No one else has signed up for the good of the order. Is there any other public comment this evening? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to liaison comments and committee reports. Let's start at this end. Jason?
The library met last Thursday. There was a presentation on the financial audit by the external firm. No surprises out of that. It was all, no questions. It was accepted by the library board. Circulation numbers are as expected for this time of year. And as we saw 2 weeks ago, there's lots of child programs, teen programs, adult programs, which are all on the website for the library. So I encourage you to sign up and participate in those.
Awesome, thank you. Carl?
Planning Commission met last week. One of the subjects was the short-term rental. It was approved to be passed to council. It might be mentioned, and it will be mentioned, that it is only, the terms of the ordinance will be only in the business and mixed-use zoning area. The amendment to code is not a zoning ordinance. It might be worthwhile for Michael or Jim to mention what is the significance of that, and that it's not a zoning ordinance, but it's handled administratively.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. It's on our
Okay.
agenda. Yeah, so probably let's do it then.
Okay. Secondly, there was an advisory meeting for 5 lots zoned R2 on Logan's Ferry Road, the Clifton Vistas, and it mentioned, it was, as I say, an advisory meeting. There's an existing driveway on Logan's Ferry. If the lots are greater than 1 acre, an NPDES MS4 permit would be required. And it was advised to the engineer that he should consult also with the Conservation District. And one other comment was that there was probably going to be a new fire hydrant required. And that was it. Yeah.
Awesome. Tony?
Okay. Medic One did meet this past week. They had their usual amount of calls. Washington Township had 153 calls. Murraysville had 1,003. Had 256 wheelchair calls, which gave them a total of about 1,529 calls. So they are busy basically every month, about the same amount of people. Their subscription drive is still ongoing with only 29.7% involved. It's a total around 202,000 so far.
Awesome. All right.
That's it.
Thank you. Jamie?
Nothing new to report.
Awesome. Jamie?
School board meeting was this past Monday. I wasn't able to attend, but from what I can ascertain, there was nothing of mutual concern.
Okay. Matt?
Parks and Recreation was supposed to meet last Tuesday, but we had the first Tuesday at Townsend. There was 20 of us for an intimate show because it poured down rain. But it was actually, the band was fantastic, but there was only about 20 of us there. But we moved the meeting. It's going to be next Wednesday, the 28th.
Awesome. Thank you. I just know for FDMSA, they met recently. They're still way ahead of schedule, and most amazingly, they handled a project in-house and saved $800,000 for the taxpayers, and that's something they're looking to do more and more. So the guys down there just keep doing a better and better job. So with that, we will move on to our workshop items. And the only item we have goes to Carl's question, which is in regards to a short-term rental ordinance.
As Mr. Stepanich just stated, the Planning Commission has reviewed the proposed ordinance and recommended approval, and it has been reviewed by the solicitor, made some editorial comments, and the Dropbox copy of the ordinance has been updated. There was some discussion as to how to address this particular use in the community, and it's set up as a permitting use, similar to a home occupation, as versus an amendment to the zoning ordinance. So what the ordinance proposes to add Chapter 219 to the code as a short-term rental unit. This would be or less. The ordinance outlines the conditions for the annual permitting of the use and the requirements of the municipality. So it's envisioned through the ordinance to have anyone who would want the use to occur file application with the municipality. It would be reviewed administratively to make sure it meets the requirements as outlined in the ordinance, and then would be permitted.
Awesome. My one question would be, have we got a lot of complaints about this?
Yes, we have.
Oh, wow.
In
Residential-
what, R1,
residential areas,
R3 residential areas?
generally throughout the community.
The only question I had about the ordinance was, what about like an RR district? Say somebody has 10 acres and they're interested, maybe they have 2 properties on there, they want to realize some, money, I'll just put it bluntly, from their property. Is there some way we could put a variance in that ordinance that they could come here if if the property is over a certain acreage or at least a certain distance away from another residence or another property?
I wouldn't recommend a variance process, but if council's desire is to include the RR district, is to identify it in the ordinance along with the B and mixed use.
But where do we draw the line then? I guess is what I'm asking. So I think there needs to be some more clarification, more than just like.
It is a commercial use. You're renting property essentially for short term, and the Planning Commission felt that it would more properly be zoned in the mixed use and the B district.
Okay.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
So again, I just want to say, so the property across from me where I live is a rental. So long as it's over 30 days, they could rent that, right? So I'm saying, where do we draw the line? I mean, it seems kind of I don't know. Would I want a rental in my neighborhood that was every other day? No. I mean, I can be totally honest. I don't think that's very safe to have in my neighborhood. It's R3. It's very dense. I know there have been some issues where some people have pulled their money together, rented properties, this is around the area, and have created quite a disturbance. So that is something we have to be very, very careful of, the safety of our citizens. But I'm just saying, I think there could be some allowances for property owners that have, are further situated out where it's.
It becomes interesting because I think RR only mandates a 1 acre lot size. Is that right?
If it has utilities.
Yeah. 1 acre. But I hear what you're saying, though. I'm sure there's some homes in RR that have 10 acres, so,
But even if you have two RRs that are next to each other that are 1 acre each, and the one house is on this side of the property and the other one's on that side, they're still 2 acres apart, So that's why I'm saying I think there has to be a discernment process in some of that.
What would a variance process look like for that, instead of approving it?
It wouldn't be a variance.
Oh, I thought that's what you
Would
said.
not be a variance.
let's not use the term variance, because variance is straight out of the ZHB, the MPC. That's a very specific.
You're
Okay,
making
Yeah,
making
but
a
I hear what you're
change.
saying. It's some sort of,
Discernment process.
yeah.
Because a variance, that wouldn't sort of say that you're changing or getting a permission to not be in code.
Yeah.
What term did you use, Jim? Or maybe I misunderstood, or maybe I misheard you.
No, what I would say, if council wanted to consider the RR, then I would add it in addition to the B and MU districts.
Instead of it being,
Yeah.
I don't know. There are RR properties close. I'm not sure whether we could say RR of 10 acres or more, or 5 acres or more. That would be.
I think you could. If it's a permitting ordinance, I think you can.
So you could say uses in the RR district of 5 acres or greater.
Okay.
Jamie, does that?
Just as a question, whether Michael or Jim would know, is that as far as, are we having short-term rentals in the RR? I mean, I know it's off the top of your head, but are we?
I would say most of them are in the R2 and R1 districts.
Okay.
Jim, now you said you had a lot of complaints. Well, those were people that want this?
No, complaints
People
of
that are
people
against.
that are being impacted by the use.
Okay.
I
So just one other question. So if you want to rent somebody's house, it has to be 30 days?
Less than 30 days.
What's that?
Under this permitting ordinance would be less than 30. This regulates uses under 30 days.
So they can come in for the weekend,
No, it's 30 days or less. You cannot come in for the
30
week.
days or less.
Yes.
Tony, I think what it is with Airbnb in that, people just have their house and they'll rent it out for mostly a week at a time,
Right.
a weekend at a time.
Right.
And that impacts the neighbors, because if you're renting a house for the weekend, you're going to party. You're going to be up till 3 a.m.
What- 30 days or less.
That's correct.
That's when this ordinance applies.
So they could come in for a weekend. They could come in for a week, yes.
So they
Without
could-
this ordinance.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
So they could rent it for a weekend,
Yes, if the ordinance is not passed.
or a week, or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right.
So this ordinance will limit it to only, right now, in its current form, the mixed-use and business districts.
Right.
So we'll be protecting all the residential districts.
And they'll need a permit, they'll need to carry that million liability, et cetera.
Parking's limited,
Yep.
that type of thing, number of cars.
I guess we want an ordinance like that people can come in and out every weekend?
No,
Right now,
We're putting an
we have
ordinance
no
to
protection
say they
right
can't.
now.
Yeah.
Right.
We're trying.
Now you're saying 30 days or less.
No, opposite. We're putting the ordinance in so they can't rent, you have to rent 30 days or more.
Now you're saying more.
No. So right now, we have no protection.
Let me try
for
again.
very short-term
30 days
rental.
or more, or is it 30 days or less?
This regulates B and B type of operations.
Right.
Of 30 days, so it's prohibited. This will regulate for use of 30 days or less in the MU and B district.
Right.
So I think that the summary is, it's already happening. People are already
Right.
staying in our community for very short periods of time for vacations or whatever type of travel. So they might stay for a weekend now or a week. Right now, they can do that anywhere they want.
and we don't have any kind of permitting process. We have no line of sight into that. We have no control. By passing the ordinance or adjusting ordinance, et cetera, and then voting on one, we will have that line of sight. We will have that control.
Right.
So we either say no short-term rentals, and there's legal, that we had all that stuff in our briefing, or we say, okay, since it's happening anyways, we're going to control it. We're going to put a line of sight on it, and these are the conditions by which we're comfortable allowing it to happen. I think that's.
The other reason for not doing it through the zoning ordinance, if we did it through the zoning ordinance, it would have to be a conditional use. So every time somebody wanted to go through the process, we're burdening the planning commission, council, public hearings, staff time, posting, those types of things. The other thing is that there are advertised properties in Murraysville now on B2B sites. So if you do it through the zoning ordinance, those could probably legitimately claim nonconformity and exist after. So that's why I felt that it was better to set it up as a permitting process.
So the question at hand now is, do we support as it's written? Do we not support as it's written? Or do we want to direct staff to shift it a little bit? For example, also allowing beyond business and mixed use, also allowing rural residential with certain criteria. For example, 5 acres or more.
I have no problem with 5 acres or more, if council agrees.
I'm
That's just
comfortable
my
with that
vote.
too. I think it was a great idea, but I like the idea of a restriction because
I'm not against it.
You could have a pretty big party on greater than 5 acres.
And then that ultimately becomes the homeowner's responsibility to vet those people. I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's on 5 acres or it's over in mixed use or commercial. It could happen.
Well, there's other burdens too. You have parking on the street, you have loud noise, those types of things that are associated with these types of rentals. So I think you need at least 5 acres to do that.
when we also have the ability to revoke the permit.
Yeah.
And there's also parts of there that say it's 2 per bedroom and then during nighttime hours, and then 50% of what's allowed at the 2 per bedroom in the daytime hours. So there's a max amount of people that are really permitted to be on the property, so that's all within the ordinance.
I had a friend that had a 20-person limit, and the place had a nice sized swimming pool, and the cameras indicated there was 50-plus people in the swimming pool.
And that wasn't a rental property, right?
Like a B&B.
Was it a B&B?
Yes. So we have to be cautious.
Yeah.
Oh, do we?
Mr. Long, did you have a comment?
Yes, if you were to decide to write the permitting ordinance such that it's permitted in a B district or an MU district and in any other zoning district with 5 acres or more, and it becomes a problem, it's easy to amend the ordinance.
There we go.
Are we saying any other
If it
district
doesn't
5
work
acres or
and
more?
problems are encountered, then you just amend the ordinance.
What else do we have that's not one of those 3 with 5?
Thank you, Jamie, for the comment.
I mean, I guess you could have 5 acres anywhere.
Yeah, but I can't think of where we would typically have that outside of
Yeah.
one of these 3. Yeah.
Okay. So, well, I mean, we're not approving this tonight, so the direction would be, let's have some language in there about if you have 5 acres or more, you can proceed. And if it becomes a problem, we'll just amend the ordinance at a later date.
We want to protect that in some way, maybe under a single deed or something, so that neighbors aren't getting together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because one of the requirements is that proof of ownership.
Yep.
Under single deed.
Yep. Maybe single lot or something like that, yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll make the changes, and then we'll bring it back to the next meeting for authorization to advertise.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, moving on to our action items. Can I have a motion for 15A, please?
I'll make a motion to award the contract for DPW-2-23 2023 road surface treatment project to Midland Asphalt Materials Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $202,273.50.
Thank you, Mac and Tony. Mike?
Yes, bids were opened on June 7th, and Midland Asphalt was the low bidder. They provided all of the required documentation and bid bonds, so we'd ask council to consider approving this item.
Okay. Questions or concerns from council? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, everybody. That brings us to 15B. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve resolution number 777-23, a resolution for adoption of the PennDOT traffic signal maintenance agreement.
Second.
Thank you, Jamie and Jamie. Michael?
Yes, this item in conjunction with the next are kind of tied together. PennDOT asks that each municipality complete a traffic signal maintenance agreement, which indicates all the terms and conditions, all the regulations over traffic signals within the community. Once that once that agreement is in place, then PennDOT will make individual approvals of different traffic signals within the community, which will be the next item that you'll see on the agenda. So we, staff would ask that council approve this item so that we can adopt the general signal agreement with PennDOT, and therefore every future traffic signal upgrade or improvement or installation would then fall under that agreement that's in place.
Awesome. Questions or concerns? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you, everybody. That brings us to 15C. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve resolution number 778-23, a resolution for traffic signal approval at Salzburg Road, PA 380, and State Route 4058 Golden Mile Highway.
Second.
Thank you, Jamie, Ling, and Jason. Michael, anything to add?
Well, this is for the specific location of 380 and Golden Mile Highway. This is the traffic signal that Olympus has agreed to install as part of the project with the gas well. But the municipality will be the applicant in name. And again, because we didn't have the signal maintenance agreement in place, PennDOT wasn't going to consider or approve this application. So once the maintenance agreement is submitted, then we can submit documents such as this, which is a application for a new signal at that location. So I'd ask council to consider approving this for the traffic signal that would be installed at that intersection.
Questions or concerns from council? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, everybody. Any old business from anyone this evening?
Not old business, but I know in the mayor's discussion about be careful about bears in Murraysville, I did see on the internet just recently a fellow was sitting on the tailgate of his vehicle and bear came up, mauled him, and killed him, black bear.
Mm-hmm.
Not locally, but yes, it can happen.
Oh, they're nothing to mess with, so yep, stay away from them. And for what it's worth, there was a bear in my father's backyard in Bella Vista, so go figure.
Cambridge Court,
Yep.
got bears going through. They're out,
See?
they're everywhere.
They're
Where aren't
everywhere.
they?
Welcome to Murraysville.
They say the bird feeders draw them in, is that right? You ever hear that?
I've heard that.
People that have bird feeders in their yards?
Yeah.
Salt licks.
Salt licks, right.
They're all in Murraysville.
Donuts.
Donuts.
Okay. Any new business? Okay, no executive session, so just one more motion, please.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.